Can we start, Rashri?
I think I was just, I'm
Just
not,
one message has come that it is in live now.
Mhm. I'll just ask then 1 second. Just allow me 30 seconds. Uh, Can we start now?
Yes.
Rashri ma'am, you are muted. Can you unmute yourself?
I do that every time. Okay. So, a very good morning and a very warm welcome to all of you for our digital transformation track, that is day 3 at Ignite 2021. We have had a very wonderful and thought-provoking session, inaugural session, and the agenda was set very aptly. And digital transformation is the need, and that is the way of life. That is the practice of the time also. And without much delay, and since I have all the experts in the panel, I would just introduce the theme, and I'll introduce our moderator, and then I'll hand it over to her. So we are today. Going to deliberate on our first panel discussion, which is digital transformation of states, a modern day facelift to effective governance through emerging technologies. We have with us our moderator, Ms. Arpita Khare. She's the Director, E-Governance, Center for Good Governance. I welcome you, ma'am, and I welcome all our distinguished panelists. Over to you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rashri, for the nice introduction. So, good morning to all the panelists and the audience connected virtually for this session. It's my pleasure to be a moderator for this session. And as you have aptly introduced, the digital transformation of states, a modern day facelift to effective governance through emerging technologies. This topic is very relevant in the current context as we are all into e-governance and m-governance, mobile governance, up to a larger extent. But an effective governance with the use of emerging technologies such as blockchain, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and by using drones technologies also is an urgent call of the time. And it is not that state governments are not implementing these technologies; they are implementing, but a lot of challenges are also there. So these emerging technologies are required to strengthen the digital transformation programs in the state with the focused standard operating procedures for its successful implementation. So I'll just quickly talk about my organization. I'm director with Center for Good Governance, Hyderabad, and this is a government of Telangana organization, and we provide strategic consulting on this policy formulation, policy like monitoring and analysis, assessments, as well as we are also developing this eGov solutions, mobile app solutions, and we are also into mobile this blockchain solutions, and a lot of other AI and ML use cases we have done. So, in this organization, this is a very old organization, 20 plus years old, and we must have done 200 and plus eGov solution and 100 plus mobile governance solution. Our stakeholders or our clients are lot of state governments like Telangana, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Jharkhand, Assam. So, cutting across Himachal also, it is not that we have just our presence in Telangana, but we have our presence in different states across the country. And we also work with the Government of India, this DRPG, MeetY, Now, recently, we have worked with the Ministry of Agriculture. So this is just about the projects we are doing here. The main domains, the important domains where we are working in election management is one, skill management, public service commission, SAN management, a lot of welfare projects we are doing for scholarship management, then HRMS, financial management, legal cases, and so on. So, and recently, like in past 2 to 3 years, we have done a lot of work on the use cases of emerging technologies. So we have mixed kind of responses and learnings also with regard to emerging technologies. We are all aware that because my all distinguished panelists, they are all quite senior in their states. They are all aware that implementation of e-governance and mobile governance projects are quite successful in the government. However, the implementation of emerging technologies require proper understanding on leveraging the requisite technology and readiness on the government part also. It is not that we'll just call some agency that we would like to implement this AI or ML, and from the very next day they will start just implementation. So a lot of synchronization, hand holding, standard operating procedures, and those kind of inputs are required at both the ends, because proper synchronization is required. Then only, like, no, we will realize some kind of goals of the government through this implementation of emerging technologies. With this note, I would like to connect with my panelists so that they can give their valuable insights. Basically, they have to talk a lot on this session topic. So my questions are going to be like, what if they can share their experiences with regard to digital transformation in their estates, and what is the vision of the state for 2021 and going forward. Second, what kind of emerging technologies related interventions, that is underway or they are proposing. And third is, a lot of challenges like, this COVID period has brought to the nation, but we have emerged as a much stronger nation. And digital, this intervention has played a lot of role in this, strong India. So, what kind of interventions they have done during this COVID time? If they would like to showcase that, and what kind of expectations they have from the government to support effective governance through sustainable use of emerging technologies. So these are my broad some inputs I would be looking forward from my distinguished panelists. So first I would like to introduce Shri Manoj Mishra ji. He is Secretary, Department of Electronics and Information Technology, Government of Odisha. So I would like, sir, to kindly please give your valuable insight with regard to this session.
Thank you so much, Arpita ji. Good to hear from you. Center for Good Governance has been at the forefront since about a decade and a half. We all have been associated being one of the neighboring states. So thank you for hosting us. I would like to take opportunity and thank first Gov Connect and for their Ignite 2021 platform, which gives us a chance to basically interact with each other. You know, COVID has brought in a lot of distance amongst each other, and these are the forums in which we get to listen to the good practices, what all are happening around the world, around the country, and this helps us to not try to rediscover the same wheel which has been done somewhere else. So thank you for having me. This is no longer a topic where we discuss why digital delivery of services is no longer being discussed thanks to COVID. Now the discussion has shifted from why to how. So everyone knows that it will have to be done, but how it is to be done. There are many challenges. Now, if I try to give a structure of digital delivery of services to citizens, the structure is the earlier government services have been designed for a contact delivery. So somebody has to come to a office, let's say to a Tahsildar office, sign a form, then prove his identity, and prove that he is the one who is the rightful claimant for that service, then that gets verified by the government processes physically, and then the service is delivered. The earlier design was meant for a contact and a physical presence delivery mechanism. So this is how governments have designed their processes earlier, mostly to do with the fact that the trust level on the citizens were low, and the efficacy of the service platforms that we had were very challengeful. So this was the design before COVID, and post COVID, all of us have realized that this model is not going to work. So we have to transform ourselves. Now, I use this word with a lot of responsibility. We are not here talking about eGov anymore. eGov we have been speaking about since last 2 decades. Here we are talking about transformation in government delivery. And how does transformation take place? Just making a service online doesn't make it transformational. Huge number of services in India were available online, but if you see the usage of them, you just go to the platform like eTAL where digital transactions are monitored. You will see that the percentage of services being delivered digitally were not even more than 20% of the entire service. Why is that? That is because the processes were just tried to be replicated to be made online. Now that doesn't help. For example, a kid passes out gets matriculated and goes for an admission into 10+2. Now if he belongs to a category of student, he has to produce his caste certificate. He has to then apply for his caste certificate. Why does he need to apply? Now, how many kids can actually go to the Tahsildar office and get the caste certificate on time? So there are issues involved in the process itself. So how do you transform? Government of Odisha, thankfully, even much before COVID, when the present government got re-elected, the Honorable CM, Sri Nabin Patnaik, declared a framework called 5T, which essentially meant teamwork, transparency, time. If you take care of this through technology, then it will lead to transformation. Essentially meant in everything. If you want to bring in more teamwork, efficient teamwork, you have to bring in technology. If you want to bring in transparency, you have to bring in technology. If you want to bring in timely delivery, you have to bring in technology. So this is the framework on the 5T where the transformational agenda was set by the government much before COVID. We were in the process of doing something that we call as GPR, which is called as Government Process Reengineering. Now, this is the distinction I wanted to make from beginning. What is the distinction between the eGov and online services that we have been delivering, and what is the transformational service delivery that we are talking about? We need to change the process itself. If there are 10 different certifications, attestations are required, can we not do without them completely? Today, I am happy to say that in Odisha, nobody has to do an attestation. We know, I and you all, when we wrote our civil services or any examination, we had to go to somebody to get our photographs attested, our certificates attested. No attestation is done in Odisha for any services. So people can just self-declare, it will be taken on its value. Now, Arpita ji talked about use of emerging tech. Now, what can a state, let's say, state service commissions who do this examination, instead of asking for attested copies, they can just go with the plain, normal, self-declared copies. For, let's say, 100 vacancies in a government sector, we know that 10 lakh people apply. So why check 10 lakh people? Let them get through. If 200 people come through, 100 plus 100 wait listed, you can actually check their certificate using AI and machine learning. No human deployment is necessary. Today, emerging tech is giving us those opportunities where we can reinvent the entire process. So this is something that we have been doing over 43 departments, and it covers about 440 services of all these departments put together, where we are transforming the process itself. So we transform the process and then deploy it. Either we deliver it online or through post or through assisted delivery, which we call as Mo Seva Kendras. We have opened at each Gram Panchayat, where people who are not very learned with technology can come over, paying a very paltry sum, can avail those services through an assisted mechanism. But while doing that, we may not be sure that the process that we have designed is perfect. So this has to be tested on the ground. So the first vertical was government process reengineering. The second vertical is taking a organized, structured feedback. We in Odisha, we call it Mo Sarkar. Starting from a Tahsildar to right up to Honorable CM makes daily calls. Honorable CM makes 10 calls every day to people who have come to any government office, whether it is hospital, whether it is police station, whether it is Tahsildar office. We capture their mobile numbers, and on a randomized mechanism, Honorable CM also calls up 10 people to find out what their experiences have been with the government. Now, once you hear them, you get to know where all you need to improve. You have the process reengineering, you get the feedback, and you plow it back, then improvise. This is what is the transformational cycle that most of the state governments are doing, and I'm proud that the government of Odisha is at the forefront of it. Arpita ji, I will not take much time. I'll take 2-3 more minutes. Coming from there, the challenges that we have, huge challenges we have in terms of for a government to come up from a contactful deliveries of services to completely contactless, we need to increase our digital infra, and it doesn't come overnight. Fortunately, we have cloud services available where we can upscale immediately without much of an investment to begin with. But it is our duty to have our data secured. So investment in data security, investment in data analytics, investment in data centers, and then coordinating with the government of India to ensure that the last mile connectivity of the telecommunication or internet is available. So we are doing BharatNet, where we are now connected all Gram Panchayats of the state almost there with broadband connectivity. We are pursuing with government to ensure that enough mobile towers are erected in areas where mobile network is not available. And then the governments will have to think in future in terms of making devices available at a much affordable or subsidized manner. Now, these 3 things will have to be done. The process has to be done perfectly all right for government. The infra should be available so that people can avail it. And third is the device itself. We are talking about digital learning. Now, how many people can actually afford to be digitally learned if they don't have a mobile phone or a tab or something like that? So these are the areas which are the challenges. Can't be solved overnight, but I think most of the government, including Government of India, are on it. And I'm quite gung-ho that the era of questioning why we need digital is over. Now, how it is to be done is being thoughtfully being implemented, and everybody is collectively involved in the process of digitally transforming the entire government service delivery mechanism. I think that is what I wanted to share with the forum. I might not be able to stay beyond 12 o'clock because I have been called by Chief Secretary for another meeting. So you'll have to forgive me for this. Arpita, over to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Manoj Mishra ji. And this was this has covered all my whatever questions I wanted to ask. And I'm really happy that Odisha is doing a very good job. Earlier also, I'm aware about Odisha's related software projects, but this is really good with regard to that no attestation is required. And AI/ML is a best, this can be a best use case for AI/ML because they can dig to the database. So, my next panelist is Mr. Sunil Kalera. He's head SEMT, Department of Information Technology, Government of Bihar. So I would like to hear out from you in what way digital transformation is happening in the Bihar, and how the government is using emerging technologies and the kind of challenges you are facing. Over to you, Mr. Sunil.
Yeah, and thank you, Arpita, and once again, thank to the Ignite team for inviting me to this forum. And good morning, everyone. I think Manoj sir has covered everything, or in bits and pieces of whatever we wanted to say. So I'll just add on to the context which Manoj sir and Arpita has already said. Our thought process in Bihar to implement the e-governance is very similar to that of Odisha. We understand obviously that e-word has to stay and we have to adopt it. So there is no question about why, and it is like Sir said, it is the how thing. So earlier when the journey started, the concept was about SSDG and then e-district and all. And we have realized that most of the things which were getting done was just the front end was being developed, and on the back end things were again being done on a manual basis. So we have taken a note of it, and now we are actually focusing that first the government should clean their house. The G2G services should be fully automated, and then only we'll be able to actually give a proper G2C services. So in that process, we have actually laid down that one of the most important functions or the department which cut across all the department is finance. So in that process, what we had done is we have completely automated our finance department in a new CFMS kind of thing, which went live just before the pandemic lockdown thing. The next important is HRMS. So once these things are automated, then we start talking about integrating with other applications as well. So the next logical step, so we are taking it step by step. So next logical step is to how to integrate between the other departments, and I'll come back to the topic. I'm just putting context, building my context. So next logical step is to how to integrate with other departments. So why is that required? That is required because when we talk about AI and ML, we should have some meaningful data. In case we do not have any meaningful data, then whatever artificial intelligence which we are going to build on whatever things or let's say number of services being availed and all those things, so it will give us some result which may not be very meaningful. So in order to combine all these applications, we have to have, let's say, digital identity to each and every government entity, or you know that every Thana should have a digital number, every let's say every block should have a digital number. So in that respect, Government of India has a local government directory. So we are expanding that directory and taking it down to a lower level so that our digital applications in the database should have a number or kind of reference which can connect all the applications. So this is the step-by-step process which we are taking up. If we talk about the pandemic era, we were lucky that just before pandemic we had built a very good ERP system, which actually was able to take care of all the salary and everything of all the data entry operators and other ad hoc employees within the state. We had made it live just 2 months before the lockdown period, and actually we were very lucky that those people's salary and everything was processed without any interaction, without any manual interaction, and everything was made live. So from that, actually the state now wants more. So a very obvious step is obviously they want to have a proper Aadhaar authentication framework. We already have that. So this is the way we are progressing. And once we have this in place, other than that, other important things which we are working on or we have started is IoT based AI systems in agriculture, which will help us generate some jobs and also productivity within the state. So I'm just diverting little bit from the citizen services and government services to actually application of these IoTs and MLs and AI into the lives of the people and how they are going to benefit from these things. So a certain kind of institutions are being set up. We are tying up with government and private institutions in which we are giving some grants and subsidies so that these can be adopted in the real life. We have already tied up with the STPI and CDAC in this regards. In probably a month or two, some institutions will be up and running. And we are also exploring use of AI in predictive analysis. That is where the Bihar police is working a lot. They want that if and when they are able to clean up their data of let's say past criminal records, so that can be fed up into these kind of systems, and then they can predict that okay, if they can get some trend like how the crime was happening and how some miscreant was doing something, so they are trying to adopt AI and predictive analysis into those fields. So that is how we are adopting to the digital transformations, and we are applying into our states and lives of people, and also into the so that the citizens of the state can benefit actually from this technology. So to start with, this is a brief, and going forward, probably you will have more questions. So back to you, Arpita.
Thank you so much, Sunil Kalra-ji. I just would like to tell you that for the CFMS project of Bihar, so I was involved. I was there with NISG earlier. So I was involved during the conceptualization, and it was a very, very mega kind of project, because implementation of CFMS is not easy. So hearing out from you after 6 years that it is in live and HRMS is also done, it is really a pleasure, because that was basically my baby. So it is really, I'm so happy about it. And second thing, as you have rightly said, that integration with all the departments and application of AI in the lives of people, that is so important in the current context. And I will just tell you a brief before going to the next panelist. In Telangana, with the kind of implementations going on, like Telangana, AP, those who are really good in EODB rankings. So you'll be surprised that because here this CGG only handles maximum EODB projects. So we need to integrate with all the departments. So they literally talk to each other. And that is a kind of reform area, so that we have to do it. There's no other option. So basically through this EODB intervention, a lot of integrations have taken place. So maybe because of some force, because these southern states, they always aspire to become number one. So that way, for past 5.5 years, I've been working with the EODB, lot of integrations, lot of, departments interacting with each other. We don't have to, for example, I'll just talk about one ecosystem, that we have intermediate education with us, we have collegiate education with us, and we have this students, this admission in graduation. So everything is online. So like if student is applying for graduation courses in Telangana, so we have database of intermediate education. So he has to only put his hall ticket number. All the information will come from intermediate education. And once he takes online admission through this system, then all the information will be passed on to a scholarship portal, which we are only managing. So it is a complete, this student is not required to submit all his document, because everything is available in the system. Even for this admission, so we are fetching his caste certificate, income certificate from Me Seva portal, which is again a different ecosystem altogether. So all systems are connected. So that is really a beauty of digital transformation. So other states must be doing. Bihar is also doing a lot in the past few years. We are all aware about it. So I just wanted to. I have no. I could not stop myself to just give this example because we are doing here with a lot of dedication, and that has become a norm here. Like no, it is not that we are doing something great about it. It is a basic thing which we need here. So now I would like to invite Mr. Manish Chandan. He's head SEMT with Department of Electronics and Information Technology, Government of Haryana. Welcome to this session, and we would like to know from you, with your experience, what kind of insights you have for this session.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I congratulate the Ignite team and uh, all the participants and all the people who are listening this session. So the session that what was uh, what happened when the COVID started and how the transformations happened. So for me, I feel the COVID was an era of opportunities. So we uh, as government, they were only the functioning. Actually, the functioning was done by the government, and all the other systems were put on hold. So they were all holding back. So while we were trying to reach out to the citizens who were under movement or who were looking for food, very basic things, but the kind of intervention required manually because of this pandemic, nobody was willing to go out to be on the field. So the IT had to take over. So I feel that the facelift of the governance actually happened when this pandemic started, and that gave an opportunity to the IT systems to evolve in a way, like Manoj sir said, that now it is not why, now it is how. So that evolution of IT, what I feel that happened, and the reach to the citizens, not only through the web portal. Gone are the days when we want the touch based systems to be there. We just want people to be on the mobile front. We want people not only using the smartphones but also on the feature phones. They should be directly connected to the technological interventions. So considering around 60% or 70% of the populations in some states, they are still using the feature phones. The interventions, IT interventions, need also include the feature phone setup. So we all are good in developing applications, mobile apps, but this area is also to be taken care. So I'm glad and I'm lucky to be in Haryana, where IT was a priority from the day one. The Honorable CM is the IT Minister of IT Minister also, and since beginning, he's very keen in the readiness. So God knows how, but he had something in mind that we should be ready. Whenever we used to be in the meetings, so his vision was that what if so considering for that what if, we were all being ready, we were all preparing ourselves to be ready. So that the readiness was of Haryana was very helpful in tackling the COVID era, where the IT interventions, we were able to deliver solutions within two days. And the citizens which are stranded, Haryana is the middle part, we're connected to Delhi, so many laborers were traveling. So multi-state coordination was happening, bordering states with Punjab, UP, Rajasthan. Many that coordination with different states was a big challenge. So it was only handled through the IT interventions. So I'll just speak about few of the initiatives which we developed in-house. So that era of opportunities, when I said that, that evolved the IT teams inside the in-house IT teams to believe themselves that not only websites, not only small IT applications, not only maybe a medium size, medium scale applications can be developed in-house, but even the large applications, very large applications can be developed in-house and successfully run. So one of the very big application which we developed very recently is the e-Khareed application. E-Khareed, this also let the administration believe that when these IT in-house teams can develop a good amount of big solutions in maybe in 3 to 4 days or weeks time, then any kind of task can be given to these people, so that they're capable to do that. So we initiated in during COVID. We started with the Sangharsh Senani. The Sangharsh Senani was a concept required for we wanted people to be there with us to volunteer themselves as as front runners to help the administration achieve things. So we volunteered for the services like hospital, like doctors, nurses, frontline workers, delivery support, administration support, telecalling support. So that portal was launched, and we got nominations, and respective districts were given admin panels. They were looking out for those people who have registered in their district, and then they were reaching out to them and utilizing their services. So this project was very much appreciated, and that COVID warrior kind of concept evolved. And we also offered this solution free of cost to all the states. We wrote to all the states that this package is developed and it is ready for replication within 1 day or 2 days. Once the server infrastructure is available, this can be replicated there and then. So that was one. Then the next innovative concept which came, that we felt that citizens are after initial few days, citizens were feeling the need of money, and they wanted money to be there. They wanted to visit bank branches, but due to this lockdown, strict lockdowns, the local police was not allowing them. So we thought of a concept where the cash should be delivered at home. So we tied up with the payments, postal bank payment postal banks, and we came up with the integration with the state department, where the citizen can place a request, and the postal department will visit his nearest, through post office will visit his home and deliver cash up to 10,000. So that was one case. The second was when somebody really wants to visit a bank branch. So how do he go? The restrictions are there. The passes are not available. You know, for that reason, the pass is not issued. So we introduced this system where he can book a slot in any bank's branch. So all the Haryana branches were given login credentials, around 5,000 odd branches. They were trained. A system was developed where a citizen can book a slot, and uh, based on the size of the branch. So we kept the size of the slot, and to avoid overcrowding and to avoid to give the pass to that this is the slot which is booked by the citizen. So 15 minutes earlier and 15 minutes later, he can be on the road. So police will not stop. So that e-pass system was also integrated. Later on, this system was integrated. Finance department adopted this solution, and they said that all our financial services will be now on this portal, and the portal was renamed from bank slot booking and cash to Atmanirbhar Haryana portal. So the when recently when the honorable Union Finance Minister announced the Atmanirbhar 20 lakh package, so all the DRI and interest waiver schemes were also launched on the same portal. So this is now the finance department's portal. So we also did a lot of work for the health department. Uh, Health department was curious in before the ICMR came into picture. The health department wanted a system in place where when the sampling is done and plus positive or negative patients are uh, detected, then alert. So that time the fear of COVID was very high, and people were very curious to know if they are positive or negative. So that alert system was developed, and alert system was also given if a citizen is positive, found positive. The respective deputy commissioner and the CMO, they were alerted, so that necessary protocols can be followed. And again, then health department, for health department, we conducted the Healthy Haryana survey, where they were finding the ILI symptoms. They were finding people with with the comorbidities, and giving them necessary sessions or capacity building and necessary medicines also. So around 7 lakh families were surveyed on a mobile app with the pure GPS coordinates. Then zero survey was done. So all these initiatives were there. Jan Sahayk Help Me was one of the initiative which was primarily focused on the movement of the people from Delhi to Haryana and from passing Haryana to UP, things like that. So we also have a feedback mechanism in place, like Sunil mentioned that, and also Manoj sir mentioned that feedback systems should be in place. How we improve upon our services, that should be the prime focus. So we have around 400 odd services integrated over the RAS platform, Rapid Assessment Survey. Plus, we have integrated on the voice over feedback. So RAS gives us feedback of around 2 to 3% services when the citizen actually SMSs back his feedback. So the percentage of feedback is 2 to 3% of the total volume of the services delivered. So we push that to a voice feedback, and a call, 30-second call goes to the citizen, and the feedback is taken. So now we are getting around 30 to 40% of the feedback and really working to improve upon the services. That is one area where AI is being used for, per day around lakhs of service requests are delivered. So this way we are improving upon our services. So I started mentioning eKhareed. eKhareed also is one of the very big projects which we have developed recently in-house, where around 10 lakh farmers, they have sold their crops in the all the mandis. It's a huge database where around 30,000 odd middlemen are there, around 10 lakh farmers are there, more than 5,000 other stakeholders which are working, like auction recorders, gatekeepers, mandi supervisors. So they are working, inspectors, agency inspectors. So they are all using this system right now, and that is developed in-house. So for me, I feel that COVID gave a lot of opportunity for the governments to explore IT and to enhance their in-house capacities. So this also is complemented by enhancing the security infrastructure and the compute and storage infrastructure. So we were glad that we also had a very good thought on the infrastructure front, and we were ready in that place also. Now we are still augmenting our security and data center equipments, so that in case any many more any God forbids, none no no corona come again. But in case any of this eventuality, we are again getting ourselves better equipped and better ready. So with this, I like to thank Ignite team to give an opportunity, and we to present ourselves that what we have done and what we are doing.
So, Manishi, this was a very, very insightful, inputs from your side. And like, it's really good that, one thing which I really liked about your talk is that for this Sangharsh portal, Sangharsh Senani portal, your government has written letters to other states for
Sangharsh
its
Senani.
replication. Yeah, Sangharsh Senani. So this is quite good because see, we have seen a lot of reinvention is happening. So like in all these states. So this is one of the very very proactive kind of approach from the Haryana government to write to other states to replicate the same. And I've also heard about other projects. A lot of work is being done by Haryana government, and in between also I'll ask certain questions. So like one thing I would like to tell you that in COVID, all these state governments, not only like major state governments in IT, those who have very high level of e-readiness, but other governments have also done a lot of major work. One such example I would like to give here. This is with regard to Telangana Patna Pragati. This is a urban street vendor survey. So in this project, we were involved and we were asked to, implement the project in 3 to 4 days, right? So as usual, because you must also have done in your estates. So that was quite challenging, but the kind of, after developing this, we have worked day and night and we have delivered. But after doing that, a lot of good kind of inputs have come. And now, what has happened that within 3 months' time, the total number of 5,85,176 street vendors were registered in Telangana state. So that is around 600% increase. And this was done on the mobile application. And now Telangana is running first rank in the country for, for registering all the street vendors. So this is one of the COVID related project of government of
Very nice.
Telangana where I was personally involved. So I just wanted to share. And there are so many, like, by all the government. But it is always better that
Ma'am,
we should, yeah, please. Yeah, you are saying something? Acha. Am I
yeah,
audible?
so I was saying that not only Sanghar Senani, but for the yeah, you are audible. So,
Yeah, please.
but the bank slot booking, the cash delivery at home portal, that also we offer to all the states as a free of cost solution to help other states, directly take that technology and host it for their use. So we tried replicating in few of the states, but fortunately the lockdowns were lifted and things started moving. Uh, I have not touched the e-services part. We are already having Saral in place where more than 500 odd services are there online. Now we are focusing, the future part is that we are focusing on giving the mobile view of all the web-based services. We are developing Jan Sahayak version 2 where all the e-services will be there available on mobile like Government of India did for Umang. So Haryana is doing as Jan Sahayak. So that is the next big thing which is coming. So I'll keep you posted on that once more question and answer sessions are there.
Yeah, and one more input I would like to give you that you can write to DRPG. DRPG is looking for such kind of projects which can be replicated across the country, and they give a lot of funds also. So that is also one of the way to reach out to the entire nation for all the good works being
Sure,
done by the
sure.
state government. So now, with this note, I would like to invite the
Sure.
another panelist, Sri Vikas Madhuri, and he's senior manager with National Institute for Smart Government. So, Vikas, it is to you. So you can just give your insights about the topic, and I would like to know more from you with regard to how to extend access to the existing services, whatever because NISG is more into consulting. So how you perceive that what we can do so that we can extend access to the existing service, expand the delivery of the services, because you are all preparing requests for proposals and all those business transformation related ideations. So it is all to you, Vikas.
Yeah. Very good morning, everyone, distinguished speakers, and then to Team Ignite and to Ms. Arpita Khare. Thank you very much. I'm very glad to be here. I'd like to share my thoughts, being a national level organization, what we have been doing in the past 1 year, particularly how it has impacted our thought process, how we were trying to align ourselves with the global pandemic that has happened, and what was the need that is felt for digital transformation, and then how should we catch up that particular aspects. These are the things I would like to talk very briefly, and then I'll come back to the questions asked by Ms. Artana. So the first thing first, I would like to inform what was happening even before COVID. So as Mr. Manoj Mishra sir said rightly, the governance perspective is changing actually, in the past. Of course, the change is a consistent thing that is supposed to happen. So initially post-independence, we all know that, welfare was the motto. And once the liberalization, privatization, globalization happened post 1991, we sort of moved into neoliberal management where we invited private parties to join and help the government. Now that has taken a slight change after once after the e-governance is conceptualized, which has taken place in the year between late 1990s and 2000, early 2002 or 2000s. Then now we are in a juncture, critical juncture point of time where connected government thing is happening. That is, we are all talking about system to ecosystems, and then the transition. How should the citizen should get a benefit from these services? What is that supposed to be delivered by the government? We're able to talk now. This has a background, and it is accelerated by two important factors in my view. One is obviously COVID, that there is no denial. COVID has pushed us to look at, step ahead ourselves, forced ourselves to change our mindset and everything. In fact, NISG has also gone a lot of internal process digitization, and then we've also gone change to. I work for capacity building and knowledge management team. We all migrated to online teaching, and we see there is a lot of potential. We have been hearing from all the states, how can you deliver your training programs through online channels? So we are developing a LMS portal, and then we are trying to contact. We have been speaking to all the CMTs in last weekdays, and we have been trying to know each and every requirement and how we can deliberate that through LMS portal. This is what was the work NSG has been doing in the week. Now, the other element that is obviously forcing us is Industry 4.0, the transition, that how the cyber systems and physical systems are should go along with obviously along with the biological changes also, in the sense biology sector also. These all three conglomerates are moving together and forcing us to change the way the government is functioning. Now, coming back, what is going to be the future? I would say the open governance is going to be the anticipated future, where I would give an example a little bit later, where a government will be more transparent to each and every citizen, where you should be able to see things very clearly, how the expenditure is being spent and what is happening in the government. Everything is going to be seen by the stakeholders in the future. I think I would say that it is bit, maybe 20, 30 years, maybe 2050, that's where we can anticipate this kind of governance aspect transition will happen. That is said. Now, what we have done in the last 1 year, and how did COVID, and I also wanted to talk about emerging technologies that we have been looking at. The first thing first, NISG has the buzzword in the government sector right now is government enterprise architecture. There is a mandate that has been released by Ministry of Electronics IT in the year 2018, and that was that mandate, and everybody's trying to implement that. I'm sure Sunil Kalra sir has more to say on that. He was also part of the drafting committee. And now what is happening, the system to ecosystem transition, I would like to give an example here. For example, if you go Estonia, and to get, can you imagine how much time it will take to get our passport done? In Estonia, it will take, I think, 180 to 210 seconds, not more than that. So how does that thing happen? The moment citizen enters, his face details are verified, just like the authentication or digital authentication, and then his data is being transformed, and then it will be ratified by the police department. Then saying that yes, he has a crime, any crime records are revealed or discussed and studied. If everything is clean, immediately you will move back to the next, and then the verification will happen, and then immediately your passport will get printed. And when you are exiting, you have to press the feedback button whether you're satisfied, yes or no. It is as simple as like that, and then only the door opens. Just imagine, this is a 3-minute process. Now, what was happening here? This is what is a digital ecosystem service that is, behind all your integrated departments. Different departments are getting integrated. They're sharing one common data, and their redundancy and obviously latency is removed, and everything is happening within fraction of seconds, and the citizen is happy. This is going to be the future in my way of understanding. Now, having said that, I would also like to elaborate what NISG has been doing with this system to ecosystem transition. transformation, there NISG felt enterprise architecture is one key. Is, as I mentioned earlier, it is a buzzword. Every state, we have written to all the 36 states chief secretaries and principal IT secretaries, saying that we have conceptualized a training program where we can certify people on India enterprise architecture, Agile India, and then digital service standard is under one module. And we are also ready to take up consultancy projects. We have been actively pursuing with the Indian Railways as well. We've been studying how do we approach with them. Now, why that is important? Along with that, most importantly, we are also part of a working group, Government Enterprise Architecture Working Group, that is established by International Telecom Union, that is ITU, and the Open Group. Now, what does this working group does? The first task that is being assigned to us is to develop a digital transformation framework, and that is one. And number two is capacity building framework. NISG's core strength is one of the core strength is capacity building and knowledge management. We have developed all the for most of the states we have developed capacity building roadmaps, and we were also part of consultancy. With this experience, now we are working on these two for the least developed countries. That is really something exciting. How does that's a great opportunity for us on how the services. Okay, when it comes to digital transformation strategy, infrastructure is the key problem, as we all of know. All countries, okay, we can also relate that countries think with our Indian perspective also, where the infrastructure is challenged. Now lies your opportunity to ensure that your service is delivered to the least capable citizen. Capable in the sense, whether there is no internet connectivity, there is no internet penetration, there is no infrastructure. Now, how do you do digital transformation in that context? That's a challenge that has to be addressed. So we are trying to take up a dipstick survey for all the least developed countries, and then we are trying to get an understanding how we can fulfill the requirements. That one thing is happening in parallel also. Now I'll take 2 more minutes on digital practitioner body of knowledge, as I mentioned. So India is also, we are slightly bit futuristic. At the same time, we're not leaving our ground. We're also thinking what is going to happen in the future. If you look at Ministry of Electronics and IT has come up with one paper published by National Open Digital Ecosystem. It's called as Node. In Node, what is happening is you're optimizing the services. So I would say infrastructure first, like through cloud computing, and emerging technologies also facilitated. With this, how does the entire migration is going to happen by optimizing optimal usage of services and infrastructure? That's the motto behind Node, where that will go hand in hand with this digital government transformation, I should say. So in that, we are studying that particularly, and how do we take up that particular approach, and how do we advise states, or how do we develop case studies or use cases when you are when you are conglomerating all these big words like optimization of services, transition of so on. So that's where we are playing our role to look at the gaps and try to come up with something, address some of the challenges through capacity building on improving awareness of all government officials who are working on these concepts. So this is something interesting thing that is going on from our side. Now, coming to what we are expecting from the government, or obviously the challenges, I would say, is yes, we should have a regulation and policy. They're going hand in hand. I'm not telling we are blank on that. We have certain things rolled out. They're all there in the comment section in the MyGov portal. We can have a look at that electronic consent framework, architecture framework consent, and then non-personal data protection bill, personal data protection bill. We have them in place. Of course, it will take some time for them to get matured, I would say. And then, but when it comes to, this is at a national level, but when it comes to states, I'm afraid to say, I think only few states have gone to that level of looking at what are all the policies I should put in place so that people or the stakeholders can experiment. So there is some guidance document is established. This is where I could say only few states have gone at that level. I wish most of the states take up that opportunity and put them in place. That's one. Number two is entrepreneurial ecosystem. Yes, we have been very good at doing that. We are somewhat inspiring to other economies also. We are growing very drastically up. That's a good thing happening. And I would also see, when it comes to emerging technologies, I think there is a pressing need for public-private collaboration. I'm not sure how it worked earlier, but now there's a pressing need. Why? Because if you look at blockchain particularly, you need to have public or private consortiums if you wanted to implement or anything test. The data has to be opened up, and that's the fuel everybody says. Now somebody has to play around with. Of course, governments are also doing it. They have thrown out their data. I'm sure Odisha has thrown out their data. I mean, when I say thrown out the data, they've made up what is required, not all the characteristic features of data, ensuring the confidence and integrity, all the parameters. They have opened up the data and published on their websites, particularly medical department of medicine, health department in Odisha has thrown up, and Surat Municipal Corporation, Himachal Pradesh. There are some of the states who have opened up their data so that people like entrepreneurs or researchers or academia, they can go and access the data and come up with the innovation solutions, saying that yes, this is going to work. For example, if I have to look at in Orissa the pattern of tobacco consumption that has led to cancer, what is the data I have? Yes, now the state is giving you data. Please go and check yourself. This is what is a task for entrepreneurs. So that's a golden opportunity. Now you come and say with the predictive analysis, saying that I have done this, I have implemented this tool, and this is what is my recommendation. Then the state is ready to take up that very happily. Yes, I'm very glad that somebody did that. These kind of hackathons are happening at a national level, at a state level also. But I intend to say there is a lot more need for them to have, particularly to understand emerging technologies. I will leave last topic. Obviously, the capacity building is needed. When I say capacity building, and not only it's for everybody, there should be a change in for the students' curriculum and then officials' mindset, everything that should happen. The last word I would like to leave is agile. The entire world, see, we do not know now everybody wanted things to happen in fraction of seconds. We want our Swiggy to deliver in 10 seconds, and we don't tolerate even if it is 1 minute late. That applies to everywhere here also. You start something with small tasks, like the way Punjab has integrated HRMS portal with the enterprise architecture, and the IoT or AI, ML. Telangana has implemented AI and ML for real-time digital authentication. Now, what you're supposed to do, pick up a small task and test it, and then see how it is functioning. Iteratively, you look at whether it is going to yield success or failure. If it is failure, very good that you learn from it, and then you will be able to scale up. So the whole point, 3 things I would like to convey is you should have the agile mindset. That's number 1. Number 2, test and the digital ecosystem is happening. When we are doing that, as Manoj sir said, the government process engineering plays a key role in ensuring that the outcome is achieved. And most importantly, we are all good to go, and we are in the right time, and we are in the exciting time, and we should take and leverage that advantages. So yeah, that's from my side, Ms. Archana.
So thank you, Vikas, and it is a real good talk where we have heard from the implementation agencies, the government, because SEMT is implementation agencies in all these states, and the policy makers also, secretary, and the NISG, which is a consulting organization and a very big think tank, right? So it was really good to hear out from you regarding all these 3 aspects, like agile mindset, digital ecosystem, and going forward, whatever testing we need to do. And one good thing which you have really told about this hackathon, and the kind of publishing of data onto the websites, which is done by Odisha. This is very much required. I'll just tell you my personal experience, because we are also doing a lot of use cases in AI/ML. So whenever we are calling the AI/ML agencies, they are looking for data, which we cannot share. So they're only most of the times talks are off, because they are looking for data which is sensitive and which we cannot share. And they are saying that without data we cannot proceed. So government has to proactively come out and share data so that they can also work around, right? Then only they'll come out with the proper hypothesis, right, in this predictive analysis or ML. So right now also, like in sand management project of Telangana, we are doing AI ML. So like we have given work to the agency, but uh, after going through data, they have come out with different analysis. So this is one of the very good input from your side. And the way you have explained about role of NISG in capacity building and knowledge management, because they are pioneer. They have written a lot of roadmaps for capacity building programs, and this government architecture working group. I'll just tell you one more difference between the implementation agencies in the state, and because I have worked with National Institute for Smart Government for 10 years. So I'll just tell you one disconnect. See, NISG, like, no, they conceptualize all eGov projects in a very, 360-degree perspective. But when it comes to implementation, there's always, a kind of gap between what we can best think of and what is the realistic thing on the field. So this is very good working group because all the state governments are involved and government architecture is very much required. And it is really good to know about this and national open digital ecosystem. So thank you, Vikas, for all your very good, insights. And finally, I would just like to sum up that we have received a lot of insights starting from Mr. Manoj Mishra about whatever programs he has run in Odisha. And then, Mr. Manish Chandan, DCMT Haryana. So he has given a lot of inputs with regard to COVID-related platforms during this post-COVID time, and the kind of initiative government of Haryana has taken to replicate this across the country. And then Mr. Sunil Kalera, he also has given a lot of good insights, regarding the in Bihar, whatever initiatives they are taken in Bihar, especially with regard to digital identity that they are aspiring to give to every unit in the state, and how this application of emerging technology will be there in the actual lives of the people. If we can achieve this, I'm not saying like no in this, the theme of this session is that ignite 2021 and what next. Yes, the next step is this emerging technology, but a lot of challenges are there which we should also understand, and how there's going to be a handshake between the technology agencies, startups which are providing emerging technologies related technologies, and the perception of government, because I'm also using this emerging technologies for 3 years. There's a lot of challenge, and through standard operating procedures and the proper protocols and a lot of clarity between both the agencies like government on one hand and these emerging technologies agencies, with this kind of handshaking only or synchronization, this can be achieved in a very very powerful way rather. And this is going to be very useful not only for 2021, but whatever times are going to come. And the best part about this is because this automation in India has happened almost, like people are saying, decades, but I'll tell you in southern state, it all started almost 2.5 decades back, right? So it is not that 3 decades rather. So we have a lot of data which can be given for machine learning kind of projects. So with this note, I would like to know if Ms. Rajshri Datta would like to say something. You're mute.
Can you imagine every session I do that? I do that, and then I'm asked to unmute myself. Okay, so thank you so much, and believe me, very interesting and such insightful pointers, action agenda that has come up, that have come up here. in this session is like unimaginable. And Miss Khare, you have very aptly and very comprehensively you have summed it up so well. There's nothing much for me to do now. I'll rather thank you. I request all of you to kindly share your recommendations, the points that you think we should take forward as a niche media platform, and to the larger audience and stakeholders. We would love to do that, and I think you have given me many insight for the sessions to come, because there are two more sessions that we are going to host here in this platform. Look forward to work with you again in our near future conferences and media forums that we organize. And thank you so much.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I think we can leave now.
Yes.
You have to leave. I think you have to leave the studio or something. Yes.